What's going on, creators? Yeah, I just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, today I'd like to talk a little bit about how facing your fear in the present moment can be used to amplify flow states. And instead of doubling down and experiencing more energy draining situations, anger, envy, drama, bullshit, the undesirable, ultimately, you can start to change your mindset consciously to experience more and more levels of flow. And so by what I mean by flow, I'm talking about having an inner idea, an inner vision, and being able to demonstrate that perfectly in the present moment. Playing guitar is an excellent example of that, where it's just like you're so locked into the present moment, to the beat, to the rhythm of the silence in between the notes. All of that kind of stuff can start to amplify these flow states. But you can do it with anything. You know, I do it in my handyman business too, where it's like I'll be spray painting a ceiling and just kind of just being really in the zone. Playing sports. I don't play sports, but for people that do, I would assume like shooting a free throw, locking into the actual gameplay, all that kind of stuff. Is all elements of flow. It's enjoyable. You're not suffering in flow states. And to me, what else is there to do in the present moment besides amplifying a vibe? And to do that, we have to let go of the things that are not serving and are not a reflection of who we are in Christ, not a reflection of oneness or the understanding of how all things are connected. And part of the dramas and the bullshit can start to happen when we start to drift back into our old mindset where everything is separate. People are separate, the situation is separate, God is separate and apart from the situation. We're in this Middle Earth experience. All that kind of drama and bullshit from our old ego mind, that's the stuff to let go of. The things that are actually serving and are, bearing a lot of good fruit for our lives, we wouldn't ever notice those things. It's like, look at your body, for example. It's like, think about all the things that are actually functioning correctly. If you're seeing me with your eyes, you're hearing me with your ears, you're digesting food, your heart's just beating effortlessly for you, you're breathing effortlessly, hopefully you are, your hair's just growing. All of this shit is just happening. And it's not until you start to have like an issue or some drama that you're actually even aware of anything going on, because we can start getting programs into our subconscious mind that are just autopilot blessing, where we're not consciously in on these dramas and in these fucking difficulties and these disempowering beliefs and assumptions. You can start to transmute all of that kind of stuff by realizing, for one, any type of suffering is a result of a mental activity that's in error. Most of the time, it's just listening to maybe your upbringing, the past, whatever, before you knew this metaphysical principle as within, so without. God is real, and God's law is how things function. It's not just random chaos. It's not all these separate things that the ego wants to perceive. And that's what it is now, so it's like a realization that right now, in this moment, everything is perfectly unfolding and only love is real. Whoa, Mike, that's a bold claim. I want to attack you for that. That threatens my ego. And so you get that kind of drama reaction, and it's in those reactions where it's like, well, why don't you think things are okay? That's when you start to uncover, well, it's not okay because I'm broke or I'm sick, I'm this, I'm that. All of the things that are not true of Jesus, for example, which is the kind of the measuring stick for the new creation that you are. We're not living under the old cursed identity, the old cursed man, the old cursed woman. That's all gone. That's not who you are anymore. You're dead to that idea. You are not separate and apart from everything else. You are one with, and everything going on is a reflection of God's consciousness in relationship to your consciousness. So if there's shit going on in your life that's a total shit show, that's not reflective of love and who God is, for one, you can get into the Bible and you can see who God says them, itself to be. I am that I am, that's God's name according to our Creator. Well, what does that even mean? And so it's like, it's about realizing that you are not separate now, that God is within you now in the kingdom according to Jesus, and according to just by practice, you start to realize this connection between your inner beliefs, because as you shift them and change them, you see how that has a radical influence on for one, your perception, but then also a tangible difference in just relationships. And so all of these different relationships that are dysfunctional and disharmonious, they're an example of fear, which is the belief in separation. So instead of bringing that bag of bullshit from the past again and again to the present moment and living in this circle jerk where you're just continuously suffering because you're believing in separation and not the goodness of God right here, right now, and the fact that you are blessed right now, and embodying the law of assumption, which is living in the end. Well, if it's not true of your life in heaven, then it's not true for the here and now. Whoa, and it's, again, the triggered reaction is the thing that we're letting go of as we're healing these different broken relationships of the present moment. You can have a relationship with social media, you can have a relationship with your money, you can have a relationship with your pets, you can have a relationship with your body, you can have a relationship with the government. All of these are actually one thing in truth. It's your relationship with God externalized in these different symbolic relationships, and you can see how you can change your perception of these things by changing how you are engaging with these different things. If you want to attack, for example, the political system, again, you're not identifying yourself as a citizen of heaven. It's like, God created the creation that we're living in. Put the people that need to be where they're at. It's us that's then going, well, no, that's wrong because judging. I'm separate from this person. I'm separate from that. These people are incompetent, and I got the same stories, but it's in healing those relationships. Then it's like, well, Mike, then the triggered truther comes in. It's like we wrestle against powers and principalities and wickedness in high places. What are you saying? And it's like, it's not a physical battle. It's that story that you're telling yourself about, how the they is enslaving you and fear and you're creating these egregores that you were feeding then with your energy and attention, and then have this expectancy of just more and more enslavement and more fear. And I hear that shit all the time in the truth community of just like, I've heard it for 15 years, maybe 20, where it's just like, you hear some asshole again and again saying, well, we're just getting into it and we got to go through the worst of it before it gets better. It's like that mentality perpetuates this bullshit in the present moment. And it's like, yeah, I'm guilty of that too because I get triggered by it. It's in okay, I got triggered by that. There's separation there. Here's the story that I'm telling myself of like, it's this imaginary payday future. Well, that future is now because God's an ever-present reality and is real and true, and you're blessed. It's in those kinds of things that then you start to tell the field of awareness, your inner conversation, that I am blessed, that God is real, that everything's divinely making me better, healing these different broken relationships. I have a broken relationship with maybe Twitter or social media because every time I get on it, it's like I'm lashing out, seeing all the separation and everything else, wanting to attack it and like destroy it. Anything that you were sitting there wanting to destroy or kill or steal or be envious of, all of those things are mental correspondence to like not believing, for one, that God is the source of every single thing that you're looking at, because ultimately all it is consciousness externalized in the form of money, in the form of relationship, in the form of all these different relationships. We have the free will to sit there and tell ourselves what we don't want, with the opposite of the truth of oneness, and then it's not real in the sense that God is in control of everything, but we can believe that he's not, and then because we don't believe that God's not real, then we freak out and become hysterical and think that we're guilty of something, feeling shame for this past, where we were kicked out of like this harmonious whatever the drama is, whatever the story is. That's the shit that's just always just in your consciousness. You believe that shit whether you're aware of it or not. But part of the gift of like these different dramas and shit, not to be make an idol of like the suffering, because it's ultimately an illusion of mind. But there's a threshold where you almost need it to like realize how dumb it is, because it's like this is not. Is Jesus still on the cross, or is Jesus off the cross in heaven? It's like, is Jesus still suffering? It's like, there's a past version of Jesus that was, and then the present one is not. So it's like, why do you have to decide that it's finished, and let it go, and stop bringing it back. Stop bringing the suffering back. Bringing it back, expecting it, thinking everything's hopeless, is going to get worse before it gets better. Dumb shit. The thing of it is like, in those moments, you just got a glimpse of what's holding you back, because curses and blessings, weeds and good fruit, will grow in the garden of your life. And so with that, we don't really care about the good stuff. It's like that just goes on autopilot, and it's like nice little surprises, like, oh, your heart's beating just normally, naturally. You don't think about, your organs and shit going on with your body until it's like, Jesus Christ, what was that sensation? Am I about to die? Is that a heart attack? What is that? Is that is that myocarditis? What is going on? Fear, expectancy of worst case scenario, separation from healing, which is, God is healing. It's like, think of states of consciousness of oneness as clothes that you fully embody. You're not a little bit pregnant. You're fucking in that state. And so it's like, love being all of these different things. And you find this out, for one, through asking, believing, and receiving, getting into the Bible, looking at all the spiritual wisdom that's in there for you to apply. And the thing about the Bible is, like, if you aren't applying it, then it's just words on paper. It's like no different than trying to read how to play a guitar and never actually playing it, but then just becoming obsessed with theory land legalistic bullshit when it's saying strum down and up in this pattern, and you never strum down, up, and actually get the muscle memory to do it. You can be like technical and be like, well, actually, Mike, it was a down, whatever pattern. And it's like, you can't fucking play it, so I don't care what you're saying. You don't know what you're fucking talking about. It's like, well, yes, I do, because, you do these intervals, and you do this, these scales, and you do this, you do that, and this is how you're supposed to do it. And it's like, play the fucking thing. You'll realize how dumb you're being. It's like, that's not what that's saying. And it's in the applying it. And then part of this practice in the here and now, getting more into flow states, getting more into just effortlessly realizing that God is the doer and everything's happening perfectly. The more that you believe that, the more is done unto you. The more you get into state of gratitude, is like the state of receiving. You're not the one doing it. It's like the customers just come as you match that vibration within your own consciousness. The correspondence, the mirror, just shows you what you're doing, what you're being. So it's like, once you get all the fear and all the major weeds out of your garden, well, then you can start to like totally shift out of that mindset entirely of everything separate. Once you realize that only love is real, that only this unity is real, this correspondence. And it's like, if you have somebody in your life, for example, at your job, that is just showing up just like a pain in the ass every fucking time. It might be the person that's making you go, Mike's full of shit. This connectivity, this oneness is not real, because this person is not part of my consciousness. I mean, it's like, this person is a fucking draining person. Every time I'm around them, they're just talking, and they just won't leave me alone. They just can't. They're incompetent. Mental story. Field of awareness is acting on that. And that person then is like doubling down. It's like chasing your shadow down the fucking drain, like an egregore, where you're feeding your energy to what you hate because you're separating yourself from that, and actually, getting more and more of what you don't want out of that person, out of that relationship. When you change that mental story about them, be like, okay, in the past, when I viewed them as being separate from this mental activity, they were showing up like that. Okay. Get it. Accept it. It's done. Moving forward, let's start putting this to the test, and for the benefit of not just them, but me and everybody else, let's have a better conversation. What can you do? Can you just look at them as like, they're just blessed? Is that too much? It's like, no, there's no way. You got to take it to that level just above where you feel comfortable. He's like, okay, well, they might have done this in the past, but today we're going to get along for the first time. I'm not going to instigate it. I'm not going to be become unconscious around them. I'm going to hold my frame, and imagine like they're blessed, that they're smiling, that they're finally in a good mood, that they're not draining, and don't expect it instantaneously, but have this expectancy that time is an illusion, so it will happen in God's timing. When you stop well, this doesn't work, and I don't want to do this, I want to hold on to attacking them because there's this satisfaction in feeling better than them, all these kinds of fucking attachments. When you finally let those go and continuously, when reminded of like, oh, that person, if it's negative self-talk about them, flip it to a positive self-talk, realizing that what you give to another, you're going to receive. So if you give good vibes to them in your consciousness, you'll receive good vibes back from them. A lot of times very fast, when you stop, expecting, oh, this is going to take weeks and months, it's so hard. And you realize it's not hard because it's all one thing. Then and the time is not real, so it's like, whether it happens in 5 minutes or 5 hours or 5 days, I don't really give a shit. I'm going to keep telling this new story because, for one, it makes me even feel better. Now I'm not attacking shit in my own consciousness all the time. I'm in more of a flow state. I'm in more harmony. I'm beginning to shift out of these old patterns of thinking that are separate, where it's just like, that person's an asshole. Well, it's easy to get along with people that vibe with you. But it's the assholes. It's the when your shit's going on with your body that's kind of fucked up. It's like when you're all of a sudden something goes on with your business that's kind of like a shit show. All of these kinds of, if you want to start like the entrepreneurial thing with like a business, I mean, you're dealing with this kind of shit manifesting. If you're not aware of that, I mean, it can just suck the life out of you with all these fucking problems and everything else that can happen. But when you realize your business even is a reflection of your relationship with God, when you just trust that God is the supply for your customers, again, everything is unfolding perfectly. It's already been like this. It's not going to happen. It is happening. There's nothing to worry about because fear is an illusion. There's only love. There's only God in creation. God and you, and this dynamic, this relationship. Everything's happening perfectly according to this mental law. Well, then it's like, okay, well, let's get into more of these flow states. Let's connect with that energy of love. Then I don't want to just be fighting my shadow and just getting more and more pissed, because when you start to battle the separation, then it's like it just takes you down your vibe lower and lower, and that through experience because you feel it. You can do the exact opposite though and use it for more and more flow state of this mental correspondence where it's like, yeah, I'm seeing that person as having good vibes for a change. Whatever their problem was, it's solved by infinite intelligence. It's part of a perfect process. In heaven, I wouldn't be attacking people. It's like working on like your mindset, as a eternal child of God, getting into that kind of mindset of like, I am a spirit, or consciousness, or whatever. It's like I'm not just this form, but there's like an invisible aspect of my beingness. When you really start to connect with that, more and more so, then it's like, oh, I get how time is an illusion, or like it's only ever now. It's like in heaven, it's like eternity, eternal life. It's not. I can't. In 5 billion years from now, what will I be doing? That's part of like the trick of like the old mindset, or actually, when it comes to this future utopia. But but it's just like you're doing the same shit in the present moment, becoming increasingly aware of what already is. That's my opinion. That's what I'm kind of moving towards. I don't really care if other people want to move in a different direction. But really, there's not much to do other than sit with your own consciousness, and in that, or is it a good? Is it feel good? Does it resonate? Are you succeeding at things? That's the other end of the pendulum is, or not pendulum. What am I talking about? The other end of the situation is like the alternative is unconsciously creating hell for yourself and constantly failing at everything. And in that struggle, it's like you get out of it, but until you get out of it, you're just in this fucking just circle jerk of suffering and unfulfillment, and everything that you're trying to achieve in this future is making you spin the present moment in just a it's in a hamster wheel. There's a let me see if I can pull this up. I'm gonna go. There's a I got it on Twitter here. Let me see if I can pull this up. Let me move that over here. So somebody posted this meme, and it's got this like, I don't know, shriveled up, decaying. I would say like a picture of like fear, that whole identity, and it's like, and not being present. So it's like it's got this person for people like in their car or whatever. It's like 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. It's got this miserable, decaying, grumpy, sad looking figure. Obviously just miserable. And then in 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, they're reminiscing about 2015, 2016, and 2017 and 2018, like that was the good old days when they were so happy. and so it's really, how I feel a lot. It's like dealing with different people. It's like habitually coming to you from just the present moment, and seeing how a lot of times people are just very distracted and very just complaining and dealing with their anxieties and what they don't want, and parroting what the fucking TV says, and having this hopeless attitude. And it's like, circle back a year later when I see it, you're still fucking doing the same shit. That's how I feel like a lot of the true community is. And it's that same mentality of like, oh, we've already spent a decade in this fucking circle jerk. But once we get through the hard part, it's going to get real worse, first. It's like just disregard the past decade of this bullshit circle jerk suffering, decaying, getting worse and worse already. Oh, yeah, there's going to be some doomsday, on top of it. Then once the doomsday happens, not realizing that entire time in the present moment, the energy is getting sucked and getting fed on by egregores and the illusions of separation that have a form. It's like the predatory kind of thing that needs you to empower it to feed off of you, but, and realizing that, then it's like, oh, why would I continuously do that? If there's only oneness, it's like there's no reason to do that. And that's why I get kind of like a stickler when it comes to suffering in general, because I just realized that, it serves a function initially, but, habitually just living in suffering and torment and everything is like, is that your heaven? Is that what you want heaven to be like? Because that sounds like a lot like a hell, spending eternity just suffering and grinding on the circle jerk wheel of over and over again. So, with that being said, I think I'm about. So, I appreciate y'all liking, sharing, subscribing, all social networking things. Appreciate your spiritual support and your physical support. Thank you for that. Donation link in the description. I appreciate your time and attention for this long. Without you, be nothing, no reason to do this channel, really. So it's like, until the next now, God bless.